as well as enlightening. As we proceed further, I want to take this opportunity to express immense gratitude towards each one of you for sparing out time from your weekend program and participating in today's open house event, which I'm sure will be of great value for all of you. For the benefit of students aspiring to pursue a degree in psychology at undergraduate or the postgraduate level, today we have with us three eminent faculty members from Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences and Jindal School of Psychology and Counseling. The first speaker to be invited on the dais is Professor Dr. Derrick Linguist. Professor Derrick was born in Utah in the Western United States, where he earned a BA in psychology from Weber State University in 1995. He subsequently attended Yale University as a psychology graduate student, specializing in behavioral neurosciences. Following receipt of his PhD in 2004, Dr. Linguist worked at Indiana University and the University of Kansas before joining the Ohio State University, where he investigated the neurobiology of learning and memory. He joined OP Jindal Global University in 2019 as an associate professor at the Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities. In 2021, he was elevated to professor and dean of the Jindal School of Psychology and Counseling. Dr. Linguist has taught more than 10 different courses on psychology and science and mentored dozens of undergraduate and graduate students in the US, China, and India. Sir, please, Dr. Derrick, please give a round of applause to the speaker.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Once again, thank you for joining us. So just to get us started, I'd like to get a little bit of idea of what type of students we have here. So all of you that are here and interested in the undergraduate program, could the students raise your hands? Wonderful. And how about any students here that are interested in the master's program, applied psychology? Right, so we got a few of you as well. So to start us out, I'm going to talk to you about our undergraduate program, and then my colleague will speak a little bit about the postgraduate program in applied psychology. And welcome, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed the tour. Again, really a beautiful campus. So I hope you get a chance to experience what we have to offer for our students. So I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of our Bachelor of Arts Honors Psychology program. So I think a lot of you are probably familiar with the basics of our curriculum. Our real goal here is to provide a broad foundation to our psychology students. And I think I'm going to give it a second. Let's allow these folks to come in and grab a seat. All right, well, welcome everybody. And I think everybody has met me already. I think I've met most of you, but if not, again, I am Derrick. I'm the Dean of the Jindal School of Psychology and Counseling. And so I just want to give you an overview of what our school has available for your children. So I think most of you know, Jindal, OP Jindal Global University was established in 2009, right? And in just a very short time, they've sort of garnered a lot of awards and accolades. They are the #1 private university in all of India, according to the US World Rankings, very prestigious organization. They are an institution of eminence as designated by the Ministry of Education. Again, only 1 of 10 private universities of in all of India. So the university has really done well for itself. The School of Psychology was begun this last fall. So we are a new school. We welcomed our first batch. And in fact, our final exam will be on Monday. So our first academic year is almost complete. And while it's had some challenges, of course, we started online, dealing with COVID, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's really been a successful first year. So we're all quite happy with the way it turned out. So looking ahead for our next batch 2022. Here's what I think our school can offer is we can assure the parents out there that your students are going to get a real well-rounded and very broad foundational understanding of psychology. So all of our students over the first 2 years will take 18 core courses in psychology. Now, some of you may realize that psychology is a really broad discipline. Right? It's one of the few disciplines that can apply to virtually every aspect of your life. So of those courses that the students will take, some of these are what we think of as sort of canonical psychology. So this includes developmental psychology, cognitive psychology, biological psychology. We have counseling psychology, clinical psychology, social psychology, personality psychology. Okay? We also have what we call applied courses, where they're applying the psychological principles and findings to disparate fields. So we have courses in forensic psychology, industrial organization psychology, educational psychology, environmental psychology, etc. Now, beyond theory courses, beyond knowledge acquisition, we also want our students to gain specific skills. So the very first semester, our students are going to take a course on critical thinking and academic writing, where we try to instill and train the students to think critically, of course, right? But also to begin to build and improve their writing skills, so ultimately they can write like a psychologist. During their first year, they're going to take courses on statistical methodology. So stats is something as psychologists we all have to be concerned with. It doesn't really matter what type of psychologist you are, almost all of us work with data, and we have to understand how to analyze and work with that data. In year 2, our students will take 2 courses in what we call research methodology. The idea here is that, again, we're providing skills in the design, implementation, and analysis of experimental data. So quantitative research methods is designing an experiment, for instance. Qualitative research methodology may be working with a literary archive, where you're going in and you're doing analyses of the writing itself. But the goal is, again, to provide the skills that these students need in order to move forward and succeed. So in that second year, right, they've taken these 18 courses, but it's not just psychology all the time. We also want to provide interdisciplinarity to our students. So during the second year, our students can take at least 4 general elective courses. And by that, I mean that they can take courses offered by any of the schools of the university. So if they want to take a course in business or law or philosophy, they have the opportunity to do so during that second year. Now, at the end of the second year, they should have a pretty firm understanding of psychology and what it has to offer. So at that point, they will make a decision. They're going to pick a specialization. We call these tracks of study. And so during the third year, they will choose one track. We have one experimental forensic, industrial organization, number 2, and counseling education, number 3. And the idea is that based on the track that they pick during their third year, they're going to be offered a variety of elective courses related to those tracks, 10, 12 different courses. And the student can select those courses that they find of personal interest, but are also conducive to their own long-term professional goals, whether they want to graduate and start working or whether they want to continue on with their postgraduate education. So the goal that we've really tried to implement here is, again, to provide our students the opportunity to personalize or customize the coursework that they take based on their specific interests. Now, beyond the classroom, we also put a lot of emphasis on what we call experiential learning. So, for instance, each semester, our students will take practicums or practicals, if you will, right? And these are really designed for our students to take that in-class learning and apply it to a real-world situation. So to give you an example, during the first semester, our students will take developmental psychology. This is concerned with how do humans change? How does our behavior, our emotions, our thinking, how do they change across development? Right? From childhood to adolescence to young adulthood, middle age, old age, etc. So you learn all about that in the class. The practicum is designed so now you can actually implement some of those techniques. How do I assess that in real people, right? How do I assess or do some sort of psychological test and apply it to an adolescent? How do I do an interview with an adult? So again, it's taking the in-class knowledge and actually applying it in the ways that psychologists actually utilize this knowledge. So those practicums will occur each semester. Beyond this, we also put a lot of emphasis on internships. So this is something the university really emphasizes. This is in a school, I really believe that these are critically important. So right now we have relationships with over 40 organizations that our students can choose from, and that number will continue to rise. We work with a department here, it's called the Office of Career Services. They help us work with these organizations to ensure that our students can apply and they can find the opportunities that are available to them. And what we're trying to do is ensure that we have a real diversity of these internships available for our students. Now, why is this important? Because again, you're actually going out in the real world and you're working side by side with real psychologists. And it's important for students to get that experience in order for them to make an informed decision in terms of what they ultimately want to do. So a lot of our students come in and they kind of have an idea of what they want to study. Oh, I want to do, say, counseling psychology, right? A very common choice that I hear. So the idea here is that you can go out and you do an internship and you can work at a mental health service, right? You actually work with a counseling psychologist. Now, in some cases, you may do that internship and you love the experience, right? Fantastic. You've confirmed what you already did. That's wonderful. But in other cases, you may do it and you hate the experience, right? This is not what you want to do. Well, that's equally valuable information. So again, it's trying to provide that experience and that exposure. So in the long run, the students can get a better idea of what excites them personally, right? What do they want to do? What do they want to pursue in terms of their own long-term goals? So as we move forward, we have, again, the in-class learning, the experiential learning, the practicums. As we saw the research laboratory earlier. And as I mentioned, that's something that I'm very much interested in based on my own background in research. So working with the Judo Institute of Behavioral Sciences, very prestigious organization here on campus that precedes us by many years. We have now developed and designed and put together this research lab. And it's really there for all psychologists on the campus. Because what we're trying to do is say, right, we don't want this segregation. Oh, you're in JSPC, or you're in JIBS, or you're in the liberal arts and humanities. Or we actually have psychologists in business school or law school. The idea is to bring those psychologists together independent of school so we can foster collaboration at a school level, or excuse me, at a university level. So again, we want to provide these opportunities to our students. Now, not every student may want to do research, and that's perfectly fine. But for those students that have an interest, we're trying to provide the opportunities, right? So again, we have the research lab where they can get firsthand experience. We have research centers. So this last year, we opened a new research center on emotion and cognition, which again, some students may take advantage of as they work. There may be opportunities down the road for your students to actually work with faculty, be involved in their ongoing research. So again, just providing that experience so your students can gain that firsthand understanding. Now, just a couple more points. I know some students are interested in going overseas. So I do want to acknowledge that during this semester, we are setting up semester exchange programs. Right now, we have about 8 institutes that this has been done with. So institutes in Hong Kong, in Australia, Israel, Canada, etc. And again, that number, of course, will continue to rise. We're also looking for more short-term programs, summer programs, and other things where students can essentially travel abroad and get some experience outside of India. So I think that many students have expressed interest in that. I've heard questions about what we call a dual degree program. This is essentially a program where your student would come in, they do 2 years at JSPC and then 2 years at an international institution. At the end of the 4 years, they receive dual degrees, one from our school, one from another school. So I can't announce the school yet, but we are very close to finalizing a dual degree program with an international institution. And again, I think moving forward over the next couple of years, we'll continue to add on to that as well. So all told, we are a new school, right? We've only been around for a year. So it's hard for me to sound too confident, right? But I do feel that we've really put together a good program here. I feel very confident that we are competitive with any other psychology program in India. And I think that the program we have put together differentiates in many ways. The two most primary are, again, that ability to customize your course curricula in year 3. And I know from our current batch of students, that is something a lot of them really were drawn to. It's an important criteria that they wanted to be able to do. The second is the experiential learning combined with the research opportunities. As I mentioned upstairs, research is not uncommon at the postgraduate level in India. Being able to get experience in a research lab at an undergraduate level is quite rare. So again, it's one of the ways we're trying to help distinguish our program from some of the existing programs. And there's lots of them that are out there that are great. But again, I feel very confident that at the end of the day, our students, when they graduate, when another school looks at their transcripts, they're going to have 20 plus courses in psychology. They're going to have practicum experience. They're going to have internship experience. I feel very confident that if your student chooses to go on for postgraduate education, they want to do a master's either in India or abroad, then again, our graduates will be highly competitive with any other student, be it in India or elsewhere. So with that said, I'm happy to answer questions. We'll have a Q&A. So I'm happy to talk about anything more that you may have, but at this point, I'll turn it back over. We actually have one right now. Well, so it's close. It doesn't necessarily need to start by fall, because again, she would be here for at least 2 years, and it will certainly be implemented and finalized within the next 6 months. So right now our mandate is the students have to do a minimum of 3 internships. No, 3 internships over the 5-year or the 3-year program. So they essentially have 5 summer and winter breaks. They have to do a minimum of 3 internships. And the internships are sort of designed to be quite rigorous. During those other 2 breaks, we will encourage them to do training, to get research experience, to take a summer program. We really want them to be active and involved every break, but as for the internships, the minimum again is 3. Yes, sir.
Could you elaborate a little bit more about the JIBS and the linkages between JSPC and JIBS? Because it will be helpful for a lot of us. Although JSPC has been around only for about a year, but as you mentioned, JIBS has been around for 6-7 years.
Correct.
So that adds to that confidence level of the parents and students as well.
Sure, and I'll let my colleague, Professor Polka, talk more about JIBS. She's actually a vice dean there, so I think she's better equipped to talk about what JIBS has done and kind of where they have excelled. But I will say that we have a very close relationship. They're our academic partner, if you will. And so not only are they involved in this new laboratory that we built, but again, the master's program that she'll be talking about is a joint degree between JSPC and JIBS, the Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences. So yes, there is a high degree of overlap and cooperation there. But again, I think I would be better off if I leave that to my colleagues to discuss in detail.
How will this course help someone who wants to pursue sports psychology?
IT guys, do you have a microphone that we can bring out? I'm having a hard time hearing. Can you say it again?
How will this course help someone who wants to pursue sports psychology?
Sports psychology.
Yeah.
Sure. So, one, I already mentioned to you that we are interviewing a faculty member who specializes in sports psychology. So I do think, hope that we'll be able to bring him on board. So you raise a good point, right? So I mentioned these 3 specializations. Clearly, not every area of psychology falls clearly or distinctly within these 3 tracks of study, right? We recognize that. But the idea is that there should be sufficient variability in the courses offered that even if you want to pursue, say, sports psychology, we may not have a track, but we will presumably offer, say, health psychology, or we might offer courses on physiological or biological psychology. So there should be enough coursework available that you're able to still sort of pick and choose those courses that you think will be most effective to make you competitive to move on for a postgraduate course in sports psychology. The fact is, psychology is huge, right? We can't cover every discipline. And what I love about psychology as well is it's always growing and developing, right? So we have a new area of psychology. It's called cyber psychology, right? A term that virtually never heard of 5 years ago. This is looking at online social media and other aspects associated with the internet, right? Because as the internet has grown and social media has grown in dominance, psychologists realize, look, we need to get in there and begin studying this and investigating. And from that, this niche, we now have this whole new field of psychology that has grown out of it. So sports psychology is another example, where sports psychology is essentially there to work with teams, usually professional teams, university or otherwise. They can provide input on best practices, how to practice best to excel as an athlete. Or they may act as a diagnostician, right? So if you get hit in the head, does that qualify as a concussion as a result? So again, it's a vast field, it's a vast discipline. But again, I do think during that third year, the availability of these elective courses should assure that you can find some courses that are relevant to whatever area of psychology you ultimately want to pursue.
A lot of international universities want 4 years of bachelor's education for admission to master's program. So how do we fit in when we talk about 2 years of education?
Yes, a great question. So one that I hear a lot. So one, it really comes down to where your student wants to attend postgraduate school. So I've been at OP Jindal for about 3 years. I've written dozens of letters of recommendation. And without exception, -1, every student has chosen to go to the UK. Okay, every single one except for one student. Now, if you want to go to the UK, 3-year degree, you're golden. That's all you need. You don't need to worry. You can get into a really great master's program there. Okay. Where the 4-year degree becomes an issue is if you want to go to North America, Canada, or the US. Okay? But even there's been a broad shift over the last 10 or 15 years, where used to be very few universities would accept a 3-year degree from India or elsewhere. Now there's quite a few, more than a third of the universities are willing to accept it. So this includes my alma mater, Yale, Harvard, MIT, Berkeley, Columbia. So there's a lot of really good schools out there. So I would say if the end goal is to go to, again, North America, maybe look and see, whatever school you're interested in, will they accept a 3-year degree? And there's actually a website you can Google. It's called World Educational Systems that it provides you information on how you convert that 3-year degree in the credits into a 4-year degree that will be amenable to those North American universities. So again, it really does come down to where you want to go. Now, some students have expressed concern that I want that 4th year. So right now at OP Jindal, for instance, the Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities, they offer a 4th year, what they call a Jindal Fellowship Program. Okay? This allows students to come in, and any student on campus can do this. They can come in and they get additional experience in writing or research. Usually the second semester is an extended internship. So it's really designed for those students that feel they're perhaps not as competitive as they would like to be, and they want to gain that additional experience and exposure. I will note that it is it's not a 4-year degree, it's what we call a 3+1. So the 3-year degree plus the 1-year fellowship. We will most likely do something similar in the next couple of years. But it is also true that India is pushing universities to move towards a 4-year degree. So it's not clear exactly when that will occur. It might be next year or the year after, but ultimately that is the direction that OP Jindal will be moving as well. But for now, again, 3-year degree is perfectly fine. And again, I've had a lot of students that have gotten into great universities in Ireland or India or Ireland or England or UK. So again, they're very competitive for those programs. Yes, ma'am. You have a question over here. You have a question down here? Yeah. We'll come back. So she's actually asking about the distinction between the various bachelor's degrees. So of course we have a BA, we have a BSc, and then you can have an honors associated with either of those. So we do not offer a standalone BA. We only offer a BA honors, right? Which does add a little esteem to that degree. But the bigger question that I often get is there a distinction, or is a BSc better than a BA? Okay. For all intents and purposes, no, it does not matter. So again, my background is I did neuroscience research for 20 years, but I have a BA in psychology, right? So when you look at a BA and a BSc, is there an advantage to a BSc? Maybe in one sort of small case. If your goal is following graduation to go into the hard sciences, right? If you want to do physics or chemistry or something along those lines, a BSc is probably going to give you a slight edge. But if your plan is to go into psychology or related fields, there's largely no distinction whatsoever between the BA and the BSc. I have never heard that myself. Alex, have you ever come across that idea? Yeah, so I don't think there's a distinction even in foreign universities, certainly not in the US. Again, I was involved in graduate applications, right? Students applying for a PhD program, and that was both US students and international students. And the BA/BS did not matter in the least. And just so you know, students, and you can kind of look forward, what matters? Your CGPA, critical. Your transcript, what courses have you taken? And again, that's where our school really shines, because again, you have a lot of coursework demonstrating your depth of knowledge when it comes to psychology. The other one is letters of recommendation, right? Now this is ways down the road, but getting to know particular faculty, particular course instructors on a personal level is critical. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, in 3 years, you're going to come back and ask them to write a letter on your behalf. If you're just a name in a classroom, and I know you've got an outstanding, great, I can write a paragraph or two. But if I've been interactive with you, if I know you, I know your strengths, I can write much, much more. I can write a much stronger letter. And I will say that those letters of recommendation carry a great deal of weight. They really, really do. So again, that's something you want to nurture those relationships as you move forward with your undergraduate education. And I think we had a question over here.
Your collaboration with international universities, like for masters.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Your collaborations for international universities for masters.
So right now, and again, I'll let my colleague talk about the master's program. Right now, I don't believe we have any international relations. We are looking to do something similar to the dual degrees called a 1+1. But those are ongoing discussions. I don't think we have finalized any of them. And the same idea, you would do 1 year here and 1 year elsewhere, and then get the degree from both universities. But again, I'm going to let her focus on the master's component.
Sorry, just off the side, what has been your biggest motivator behind opening the GA?
Personally. Well, again, my background is in research. I never envisioned that I would be involved in the administrative side. And I will admit I was pretty hesitant to take this on. But I have found that I really, really enjoy it. And to be a bit modest, I think I'm pretty good at it. We've done a pretty good job so far setting it up. So for me, it's really kind of coming up with a vision. And I've done this with our assistant dean over here, Professor Judo. A year and a half ago, it was really just the two of us sitting down and saying, well, what should we do? Right? We're just starting to do school of psychology. What's important? What do we want to emphasize? And kind of working through that program or that process and coming up with what we think is, again, unique, but also provides the experience, the information, the knowledge that we think is critical for the students to succeed. So, yeah, it's been a wonderful experience to see it from, go from just mere ideas in your head to the implementation. And of course, we're finishing our first academic year. I'm very excited for 2 years down the road when our first batch graduates. I think that'll be an exciting time. And so, yeah, I think there's been a lot going for it. And again, I don't want to seem too boastful because again, we've only been here a year. But the feedback I've gotten from our students this year has been very, very positive. It really has. So again, I think we put together a good program and the students are enjoying. They feel like they're growing and developing as psychologists. And ultimately, that's really what we're trying to do is provide that opportunity. I think you all know that there's a real need for psychologists and mental health professionals in India. And if anything, COVID has just really de-emphasized that point. And so I think that we're really playing a critical role here. Like we are literally training the next generation of psychologists. And so I take a lot of pride in that. Yes, ma'am.
We were talking about internships during the break, right? So where are we able to get internships with organizations that are from my home city?
Yeah, great question. We're working on that. So our first winter break, it was still under quarantine, so it was all online. This summer is a little bit more hybrid, some online, some in person. But at the end of the day, India is a really big country. We have students from all over the country, so no, we won't have opportunities for every student. But we are really working very hard to ensure that the big metropolitan areas, right, of course, Delhi, Kolkata, Mumbai, etc., right, there are opportunities available for the students there.
And also about the semester exchange program that you were talking, will it be scholarship based or is it fully funded?
That's something that it would really be a case by case basis. So we form what we call a memorandum of understanding, and so exactly how much and what percentage would vary by the university. And again, I think that's a conversation we could have down the road. But at this point, I think I'm more than happy to answer as many questions as we have, but I do want to ensure that my colleagues have a chance to interact and engage with you as well. So why don't we move on, Melina, if you want to introduce, and then once we finish up, we can do some more questions. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Derrick. That was very informative. May I now call upon the next speaker of the day, Professor Dr. Pulkit Khanna, Vice Dean, General Institute of Behavioral Sciences. Professor Pulkit Khanna serves as Associate Professor for Psychology and Vice Dean at the General Institute of Behavioral Sciences at O.P. Jindal Global University. She carries multidisciplinary professional experiences, including teaching, research, and training over the past decade. She attained her PhD in psychology from IIT Delhi. Thereafter, she was certified in positive psychology, research, education, and application in community health at Memsc. Her current research work focuses on strengthening student well-being in educational spaces and exploring indigenous practices that promote positive psychological constructs. Ma'am, please come on stage. Thank you. And a big round of applause, please.
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Thank you, Malini, for the introduction, and thank you, Derrick, for laying out a lot of detail about the bachelor's, the undergraduate program here at JGU. What I'll try and do over the next 15 to 20 minutes is just take it from where we left off and go on to the PG program. But before I do that, because we have a mixed audience and a lot of interest in undergraduate studies and some, of course, in PG and other programs, I will take a moment to share that about 20 years ago, when I first decided to be a student of psychology, fresh in class 11, it was still a very, very unconventional subject in India. It was something that few people would get into for very specific reasons. So coming from there up till today in 2022, it's very heartening to see almost a hall full of young people and their parents who've accompanied them on this hot June afternoon to know about programs in psychology. So I think a huge round of applause for all of you who know about this. Now, moving on, I will, just take some moments to set the context and ask you, can you identify some of the biggest problems that plague the world today? What are some of the key concerns that you see around yourself? I'll get going with climate change. Yes, sir.
Wokeism.
Okay. Wokeism, climate change, crime, anything else? Terrorism, conflict. So if you look at what is common in all of these concerns is that underlying the problem everywhere is human behavior. And that is why when the big shots, the powers that be across disciplines sit at a table to debate potential solutions, today, more than ever before, psychologists also have a seat at the table. So therefore, whether you choose to pursue a degree in psychology at JTU, of course, I hope you do, or elsewhere, the good news is that you are pursuing a path that has more recognition, more acceptance than it did ever before, not only in India, abroad, and all places as well. Now, moving on to the Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences that I represent to you today. So, JIBS, as we popularly call it, and I'll be referring to that more often as we go along. This is one of the 3 prominent institutes that we have here at JTU. Like my colleague, Dean Derrick mentioned to you earlier, we did, come into existence much before JSPC did, and we've been in operation since 2014. So this research institute primarily has been working across 3 domains. That is research, of course, research, and then there is training and community outreach, and also teaching. In the research vertical, we started with a flagship PhD program, the doctoral program that's been up and running since 2016, and we have over 9 people who've already graduated with PhDs in behavioral sciences. There is a lot of practical on-the-ground work that we do with teachers, professionals, and people from diverse industries in terms of actual practical applications of psychology. So to answer one of the questions that one of you had asked Derrick a little while ago about how do these networks or the linkages between JIBS and JSPC help? The translation from what's going on in the classroom to how it actually moves into the community, I think that begins at home right here. Moving on to the actual teaching part of things, so there is a lot of interdisciplinary elective courses that we offer to students across the university. And we hope to see many of you in those courses as well going forward. We're also now on the verge of starting our first PG program in collaboration with JSPC, which is the MA-MSc Applied Psychology. So like I mentioned to you a moment ago about the growing recognition, the growing need for psychologists today, I think after COVID, the pandemic situation, more than ever before, people have recognized the mental health crisis, the growing attention to our well-being. So we also recognize the limited good quality offerings that are there within the country. So of course, there are eminent institutions and, we are all praises for them, but we also feel there's a dire need to add to that and actually have quality contemporary education, hence the seeds of this program. Now, the MA-MSc Applied Psychology, I will be focusing a little more about this program in particular. So this is a 2-year-long, fully residential program spread over 4 semesters. The first point that I think I must adequately highlight here is that it is truly interdisciplinary in nature, and that starts from even before you actually join the program. So one of the key differentiators is that many other programs have a strict eligibility criteria that only people with a bachelor's in psychology are eligible to come in for a master's in psychology. But stepping away from that and recognizing that sometimes the boundaries between disciplines are more artificial than natural, we've actually opened the gateways to students with an undergraduate degree across different disciplines. So it could be a BA in another discipline, it could be a BCom, it could be a BSc, and this program opens its doors to anybody with an equivalent undergraduate degree. So that's first. Moving on to the nature of the curriculum that is on offer. The year 1 of the program is common for all students who sign up. which means that throughout the first year, you are exposed to certain foundational courses in psychology. Courses that may cover a range of topics from foundations in applied psychology to basic research methods, to social psychology, developmental psychology, to name a few. At this point, some of you may wonder that if I haven't studied psychology at an undergraduate level, will I be at a disadvantage? So we do completely factor that in, and that is why the program is designed to cater to the interests of both people who have a background, but also people who are making their first steps towards this discipline. So how we pace the learning, how we pace the program is that the initial few courses are meant to set the foundation, but then of course offer more advanced level of, the same topics, so that those of us who've already studied that at a bachelor's level are actually progressively learning the depths of the subject and not repeating the same work. Now, at some point in first year, the most important thing happens regarding this program, which is that you get to make your choice of specialization. This particular program offers 3 key specializations at the moment, which is number 1, community psychology, number 2, forensic and investigative psychology, and number 3, industrial and organizational psychology. So depending on your own preference, inclination, future long-term goals, and prior background, students get to pick the area of specialization that they'd like to graduate with. There is a very well thought through reason why the specializations are not chosen at the time of admission, but a little later, because we understand that some of us may have a very, very well-defined idea that this is exactly what I want to study in. But on the other hand, there are some of us who come with a particular notion. So as Dean Derrick said in his talk that, you may want to pursue counseling psychology, but after your internship realize that, hey, I don't enjoy this too much. Or this isn't what I quite thought it would be. Or all the movies showed it a particular way, but actually on ground, it's not the way it functions. So what we want is that after you study in semester 1, you've had exposure to a wide array of topics in the field. You've been exposed to instructors, faculty from different disciplines. You've learned from your peers. Then you make an informed choice. And at that point, you actually choose the specialization that you would like to sign up for. Now, a little bit about these 3 specializations. First, why these 3? The honest answer to that is why not? But it's also about trying to cover a diverse array of more niche areas, more unconventional areas, which at other places are often covered just as one standalone course or just as 2 courses. Instead of that, what we're trying to offer is 1 full year, that is 2 semesters of dedicated instruction in that particular specialization. So allow me to perhaps very briefly touch upon each of these 3 specializations so you will have some idea. The first one, that is community psychology, is essentially meant to expose students to how all of us as social beings function in interaction with our social environment, our ecological environment, understanding the relationships, the dynamics of local indigenous communities, as well as diverse global communities, how to navigate that, how do things function at the level of community. The second one, that is forensic and investigative psychology, that is particularly focusing on areas at the intersection of psychology and law. So things like criminal behavior, things that have to do with criminal tendencies. What are the underlying causes? What are the behavioral ramifications? What could be potential remedies? Understanding them at the level of individual as well as society and community. And the third and final specialization, which is industrial and organizational psychology. This is something which, if I had to put it in simple words, it's like tracking the entire employee life cycle. And when one joins an organization to when one integrates with it, goes on, contributes to everything, till perhaps exit, organizational mergers, etc. But really the underlying human aspects that impact performance, productivity. What is your motivation to come to work? What is your motivation to join A organization versus B? What is it that determines consumer decisions? All of these kind of things that are closely related to human resources factor in this specialization. Now, no matter which specialization you choose to sign up for, there are certain things that remain common and universal. The first of them is mandatory internships. So I do think that the speaker before me addressed this in quite a lot of detail. So the same merits of the internships continue, and we continue to follow the same philosophy in the master's degree as well. The only difference is that because this is a shorter program, it's a 2-year program, we do have 3 mandatory internships. So in every intervening break, the summer and winter breaks in between semesters, we do expect students to intern. What will an internship look like? An internship will mirror the specialization that you sign up for. So in first year, there could be some more standard or generic internships. But in your year of specialization, a student of community psychology may choose to intern with an NGO, while a student of industrial and organizational psychology may choose to intern with a corporate house. And of course, this is a very, very simplistic way of explaining it, but it's just to give you an idea that it's not like a one-size-fits-all kind of a story, because the internship is meant to be a bridge between the classroom and your professional experience. So when people wonder that what is the placement after a course like this, I would often say that, listen, when you go and sit for an interview, your employer and you will not spend more than 10 minutes, 15 minutes, if you're lucky, maybe 25, 30 minutes, 1 hour. But when you go and intern with a particular place, you get to spend 6 weeks, 8 weeks, an entire summer or winter at that place. So you get to observe the culture of an organization, the nature of the goings about. They get to observe your performance, your capabilities, your aptitude. So an internship is a great time to figure out what is it that you want to do, and also to figure out what is it that you don't want to do. Because our classroom, our theoretical learning sometimes give us ideas which are slightly disconnected from the actual on-the-ground realities. So internships are one common component across the 3 specializations. The second common component is a dissertation, which is the culmination of the research training that goes on in the postgraduate degree. So in year 1, all students will be exposed to research methods, rigorous courses in both semesters. And all of this training finally culminates in a dissertation in the final semester, so that you actually walk away with some solid foundation of how do you carry research, what is your orientation in terms of whether you prefer one type of method or what is the area that interests you. Of course, we understand that not everybody wants to pursue a career in research, but a postgraduate degree without a research orientation would be truly lacking and incomplete. So yes, this is the other essential component. In terms of other sort of hallmarks of this program, if I had to really distill it down to a couple of things, I'd say the first one would be interdisciplinarity. I spoke about it earlier, but I will happen it again, because starting with having a cohort of students who are coming from different disciplinary backgrounds, that's actually a huge plus. Rather than being in a silo of people who are all coming from the same setup, all very like-minded, you get to learn a lot from your peers. Secondly, there are electives that students get to sign up for during this course. So it could be an elective from the law school, from the business school. The faculty is a great mix of practitioners and people from core academia. All of that gives a nice, well-rounded exposure to the subject. The second thing actually I already covered, which is about the faculty really, because at the core of any good program, it is the faculty that's designing the instruction, that's delivering the instruction. So we take great pride in all of our faculty colleagues who are in the classroom to deliver these programs, who are at the drawing board designing this curricula for all of you. And other than that, the faculty-student ratio. So I think one of JGU's key meritorious points is that currently we maintain a faculty-student ratio of 1:8. 1:9, all right, 1:9 as we stand today. And to continue in the same spirit, particularly for the master's program, we envision when you sign up for your specialization, we would not have a cohort more than 20 in one section. So when you have a batch of community psychology of 20 students, or 20 in forensic psychology and 20 in industrial organizational psychology and not more, There's definitely a lot more scope for individual attention, for hands-on learning, for experiential learning, rather than just like a mass didactic structure where somebody comes, gives a lecture to 200 people and leaves. And which brings me to the third and final aspect, which I want to, highlight to all of you. That is the nature of experiential hands-on learning. So not only through the lab, the practicums, the inbuilt internships, but even the very nature of how the courses are designed. Because we are young, when I say young, the school is young, the university is young, the program is more contemporary. We are trying to benchmark against the global best practices in terms of curricula, in terms of how to design the course. So it's not necessarily baggage from something that was designed 3 decades ago and we continue in the same mold. People are changing, global realities are changing. So field like psychology cannot be stagnant. So experiential learning that will allow you to actually engage with contemporary concepts, that's something that we are really aiming for with this course. And this is most of what I wanted to share with you about the course, about the curricula. The last point that I'd like to make before I conclude my part for now is to address future prospects. Because anyone who is signing up for a master's program is very keen to know what after that. If I invest 2 precious years at this stage studying this program, what are the pathways that open up for me? What could I pursue after that? So in terms of career pathways, in terms of prospects, honestly, a couple of minutes or 5 minutes is absolutely not enough to be able to tell you all that is possible. I don't remember the person, but somebody had once said that the universe is so full of things that 26 letters of the English language are not enough to talk about it. So similarly, for what all you can do with a degree in psychology today, it's difficult for me to sum it up so quickly, but I will try my best to outline few broad areas that sort of signify a few directions that you can step into. The first one being education and research, which is to say that, of course, some people after a master's may want to go down the path of a PhD degree, some doctoral studies or higher education, or a career in academia, where people have aspirations of joining the education sector at the school level or at the higher ed level. That's one broad pathway. The second pathway could be in terms of the social sector. Social sector, the development sector, in terms of a lot of very dynamic things that are happening in the world today, whether it is a global fund, NGO, community organization led by various activists, etc., where people could forge careers that are closer to the ground level and actually contributing and more impact-based roles. Another thing could be assessment-driven, where some of us maybe have heard of the term psychometrics. Is that familiar? Could you show me a raise of hands if you've heard of psychometrics? Okay. So psychometrics has been around for a while, but emerging in a big way again. So people with degrees in psychology can serve as psychometric trainers, facilitators, actual assessors in diverse roles. And finally, in the scope lies in industries, in organizations, corporate houses, whether it is in terms of not only psychologists, but also areas like competency assessment, areas like learning and development training, because people who graduate with a degree in psychology are essentially behavioral scientists. So wherever you have people, there are going to be problems. We all know that when there are people, there are going to be problems, and you need somebody who is not only solving the problems, but actually having a more preventive, more promotional approach, who is able to identify what is it that determines why people behave the way they do. So really the options are limitless, but I do hope this gives you some broad idea of what you can do with a degree in psychology. I think I will stop here and perhaps take some questions at the end, because we'd like to invite a final speaker for the day. So back to you, Malini. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for that very enriching talk. May I now invite the third speaker and the last speaker of the day, Professor Dr. Upasana Mahanta, Dean Admissions and Outreach, and Professor, Jindal Global Law School. Professor Mahanta has a PhD and MPhil from Jawaharlal Nehru University and ME from the University of Delhi. She was a Shastri Doctoral Fellow in the Center for Women's and Gender Studies, University of British Columbia, Vancouver, Canada. Her research interests include role of women in emergent political institutions, gendered understanding of conflict, women organizing and resisting insecure contexts, and examining development through a gendered lens. She has authored multiple publications that include books with leading global publishing houses such as Springer and research papers in national and international peer-reviewed and Scopus indexed journals. Ma'am, please come on stage.
I'm already on stage. Thank you so much, Malini, for the generous introduction, and very warm welcome to all of you. Can you all hear me? Is this fine? All right, great. So wonderful. Thank you so much for coming in on a Saturday and giving us your valuable time. I promise to be very, very brief. The esteemed faculty have already spoken to you. I just want to talk to you about a few things, and perhaps we can have more time for Q&A. So as Dean Derrick and Professor Pulkit before me have already given you an understanding about the psychology program, both the undergrad program and the master's programs that are offered here at OP Jindal Global University. I want to talk to you all a little bit about OP Jindal Global University. So if you are coming and studying, and I'm talking to the students at whether you're doing an undergrad program or a postgraduate program, you are also committing to the ecosystem that is the OP Jindal Global University, right? So Jindal School of Psychology and Counseling and Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences are placed within the larger ecosystem of OP Jindal Global University. So therefore, I want to tell you a little bit about the university, what does the university represent, and what is the vision of the university. The university was set up in 2009 by relentless efforts of our founding Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. C. Rajkumar. The university has grown tremendously since then. The first school to be set up in 2009 was the law school, the Jindal Global Law School. Today, we have 12 schools at OP Jindal Global University. Apart from the Jindal School of Psychology and Counseling, there is the Law School, Business School, School of Environment, School of Liberal Arts and Humanities, Journalism and Communication, Languages and Literature, Art and Architecture, Public Health, and so on and so forth. So there are a few things about the university and the journey that I would want to highlight. One is that, as Professor Pulkit said, we have a 1:9 faculty-student ratio. Now, what does that mean? It means that there is one faculty for every 9 students. And what does that mean? That means that we are able to give that kind of attention and health holding that is required to students, no matter which program that we are pursuing in the context of the university. As you can see, these are some of the figures that we wanted to draw your attention to. So 5 things that I want to talk about the university. Number 1 is the quality of faculty. Professor Pulkit already spoken about the faculty at Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences and Jindal School of Psychology and Counseling. I want to say that across all the 12 schools at OP Jindal Global University, we are very proud and of the kind of faculty that we have been able to bring in, to bring in the kind of experiences and pedagogical tools in the context of the classroom that are truly world-class and cutting edge. We have currently more than 100 faculty members. The numbers are increasing as we speak from 42 different countries in the world. You can see the slide here, but the point of showing you this or talking about this is not to say that, oh, look, we have all of these international faculty. But the point that we are trying to make here is that that kind of a richness and diversity that comes in the context of the classroom, in the context of the teaching and learning experience. Professor Pulkit spoke about interdisciplinarity, and she spoke about that. Whether you study an undergrad program in psychology or a postgrad program in psychology, you can take an elective course, for instance, in any other school across all the 12 schools and the programs that we have to offer. What does it essentially mean? It essentially means that this kind of richness and diversity of experience that the faculty bring in also seeps into the kind of electives that are offered, kind of curriculum structures that are there, and so on and so forth. So interdisciplinarity and the faculty and the diversity in terms of the faculty are deeply interconnected with each other. So one is interdisciplinarity. Second is quality of faculty. The fact that we have 320 plus cross-listed elective courses. Now, what does it mean? It means that these are the electives which could be offered in the law school or the business school or the architecture school or the international affairs school, but could be taken from students from any of the other schools. So all our core courses are generally taught, by 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. the classes are over, and the evening slots from around 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock are often kept for our elective courses, so that students are done with their core courses and now they can do a course and an elective of their choice from any of the other schools. So quality of faculty, interdisciplinarity. Third thing that I want to talk about is internationalization. You had few of the questions, and the faculty present here will speak about the kind of internationalization opportunity that is there for the undergrad program in psychology and the postgrad program in psychology. But I want to say that overall, as a university, we have 350 plus collaborations and international collaborations with top-ranked universities of the world. There are 3 kinds of student mobility programs that are there in terms of internationalization across all the schools and programs, also applicable to the undergrad and postgrad programs in psychology. One is the short-term study abroad program. The short-term study abroad program are programs when you go during the recess time. So you will go during June and July when there is vacation, or December and January during vacation time. And these are short-term studies. So as we speak, in the month of July, 35 of our students are going to Harvard for a short-term study abroad program, and 30 of them are going to Columbia. And many such other programs are happening in various other parts of the world. So we have short-term study abroad program. Second is a semester exchange. So, for one semester, you can go and do that semester abroad and come back. And third is, of course, the dual degree programs, which faculty have already alluded to. If you can put the next slide, I just want to give you an example of some of the, so with University of Arizona, with University of Oxford, with Harvard, with Fletcher School. Now, the point is, you can see that the Fletcher program on diplomacy and foreign policy, or Jindal Harvard program on human rights and development, but this is open to schools, all the 12. So you can do a course on psychology and you can go and do a short-term study abroad program in human rights, right? So this is open to schools across. So quality of faculty, interdisciplinarity, internationalization, the academia-industry interface. Professor Pulkit spoke about it when she was talking about particularly the master's program in psychology, but that is true of all programs, and particularly in the context of the psychology program. What does an academia-industry interface mean? It means the emphasis on internships. We have an Office of Career Services. We are very consciously not calling it a placement office, but we call it an Office of Career Services. So Office of Career Services will provide you with overall career guidance, right? So from helping you to write your CVs, to prepare you for your interviews, focus group discussions, help you navigate through the, through this, myriad of industry opportunities that are there, bring in industry experts to give talk to students. And apart from that, the Office of Career Services, in alignment with the school, also help you identify possible internship opportunities that you would want to avail in aligning with the kind of, focus area that you want to have in terms of your studies. So Office of Career Services is another very important aspect. Last few things that I want to highlight. One is a very robust faculty mentorship that happens in the context of the university. I have studied in Delhi University, in Jawaharlal University, have been trained abroad. But I can tell you with full assurance that the kind of faculty mentorship that is provided, not only because of the 1:9 faculty-student ratio, but also because there is a fundamental level commitment by faculty to help students navigate both their academic and co-academic lives on campus. So there is a strong faculty student mentorship program. There is zero tolerance. It's a completely ragging-free campus. There is a strong mentorship that is offered by senior students to the students who have recently come in. We have, of course, Committee on Gender Sensitization, against sexual harassment. We have a disability support committee. So students who may have some kind of special needs, they can approach the disability support committee, and assistance is offered through this committee to students who would require some kind of special attention. In fact, in the past, students who had some kind of, say, visual challenges were offered possibilities of having scribes during examination, or given some kind of relaxation in terms of submissions of assignments and so on and so forth, to account for the fact that everybody is not always on the same page. We have Center for Wellness and Counseling Services, of course, within the School of Psychology, but across the entire university ecosystem, we take the question of mental health very, very seriously. We offer ample opportunities for students to be able to, avail these services on campus. In fact, we have tie-ups with online services to seek mental health support if any one of the students are not comfortable going physically to a counselor. So all of those opportunities are availed. As my esteemed colleagues have already spoken about, it's a fully residential campus. So you will be living on campus, and it is in Sonipat. We know that we are isolated in that sense, and so we make it a very, very conscious decision to make sure that there's a vibrant cultural life on campus, that students have spaces to be able to express themselves creatively. We have an Office of Student Life and Cultural Engagement, which is dedicated for the process. We also have, nearly 50 student-run societies on campus, from environment society to performing arts society, to theater, to film, to debate, to mood, to quiz, to music and dance societies. So students who want to creatively express themselves, who want to have opportunities to be able to do it, have those spaces within the campus, so that they can access those creative spaces and also express themselves creatively. It's a residential campus, so we make sure that the students have a fullest possible way they can experience the campus life. Of course, we have a health center and various other opportunities and facilities on campus, which our teams will talk to you about, and also will give you a campus tour. But these are some of the few things that I wanted to highlight. I wanted to say that the fact that the university is rooted in this vision of being able to impart quality world-class education, situated in India, giving you a truly interdisciplinary education rooted in aspects of internationalization. I think as a result of that, we have been recognized by Government of India as an institution of eminence. We have recognized by World University Ranking, the prestigious QS ranking, as the #1 private university in India and one of the leading or top universities in the world. And we are very, very happy that you have chosen to come and explore this space, explore the kind of courses that are offered here, particularly today in the context of the undergrad and the postgrad programs in psychology. I want to say that the programs that we have developed have come from a space of deep commitment towards contributing to higher education in India in ways that was not imaginable in the times that I was studying. So I think we are very, very fortunate to be able to explore these kind of educational opportunities, particularly in the context of India. And in that sense, I think all of us are extremely lucky to have these opportunities. I want to thank all of you once again for taking out your time and coming here and hearing about these programs. And during the Q&A, we will be happy to take any questions that you have. Thank you once again. It was lovely talking to all of you. I believe this is the Q&A time. So we are happy to take any questions that you may have. You can just raise your hand and a mic will be given to you.
Yeah, hi, thank you. That was fabulous. Professor Khanna,
And where are you?
right here,
Oh, hi.
Professor Mahanta. Just wanted your perspective of the role that the institutes that you went to played in shaping and growing you, and the sort of impact it had for you to pursue this wonderful subject. Yes, because you went to, I saw that you went to Memsc, you went to IIT Delhi. So just to get a perspective of what kind of role these institutes played for you.
Thank you. Thank you for also catching me by surprise and making me nostalgic about the times at that institute. But I think on a more general note, particularly as students and teachers of psychology, we always say that for any human being, it's nature and nurture that shapes the way you are. So whatever institution you or I may choose to go to is contributing to the nurture aspect, our environment, how is the exposure there. Of course, all of us are products of our conditioning. So by the time I went to college, or by the time all of you go to college, you're already coming with at least 18 years of whatever you bring with you. The good, the not so good, the variety of experiences and conditioning that you carry. Having said that, whether it is a particular institution that I had the opportunity and good fortune to go to, or many others have been to so many other prestigious places, number one, it is the exposure that it offers you. What you learn in the classroom, of course, stays with you, but I think what stays with you for much longer is how it shapes you as an individual, how it really opens up your mind to different opportunities. And since you asked me this question, I think perhaps how they shaped me more than anything else was to ignite questions, to think of not having arrived or having learned so much, but figuring out how little you knew, figuring out how much you needed to constantly keep learning. And that's really what we hope to be able to do with our programs as well. So what you get on campus in the classroom is great, but what you also get in terms of exposure to faculty interactions with peers, the incoming mobility from international faculty and students, the outgoing mobility where you get to go, I think it's just the curiosity, the wonder, the hunger that we hope to inspire. I hope I could answer your question. Thanks.
I wanted to ask for the students who will enroll in the master's program, how would they be evaluated in the sense that how would the examination be conducted? Like in the traditional way, or would where we simply just learn our course material, or would it would be a little different than the traditional way of examining students?
Sure. So essentially, this is across, I guess, a lot of undergraduate programs and masters, but since you asked me particularly for the master's program, normally for every course, for the evaluation assessment, we would have a combination of what we call the continuous evaluation, that is the internal assessment, then the end semester examination. Now, first I'll talk about the conventional part that you call the end semester examination. Remember, it is just the culmination of everything that's been done over the semester or over the years. If the pedagogy isn't such, if the material isn't such that's inspiring rote learning, obviously the expected output wouldn't be the same either. Having said that, there are certain things that are very factual in nature, that are very theoretical, that just allow for a robust foundation. Of course, there'll be elements of that. But in terms of a lot of components of your evaluation that are based on group presentations, that are based on practical projects, that are based on community projects, more impact-focused things like I mentioned earlier during my talk, credit-based internships, which is also a part of your evaluation. All of these things, I think, are a huge departure from rote-based learning. So it's going to be a combination of a variety of things depending on the subject matter that is being assessed. Thank you.
Hi, so I think one of the commonalities, whether it's undergraduate or postgraduate, as Professor Polkett has indicated, right? It's not just the course, the theory courses, but it's the practicums and it's the internship where you're going to receive credits as well. The one thing I would add that I think students need to prepare for is the difference of a residential campus versus online teaching. Right? We all know for the last 2.5 years, almost all teaching has been online. Although we had students return to our campus this semester, due to the nature of COVID, it's still been what we call a hybrid semester, meaning we taught online, the final interim examinations are online. And I think especially the students recognize that online exams are very, very, very different from having to take an exam in a classroom. So the expectation is come fall, we will be fully residential once again, which means all examinations, both midterms and final exams, will be in a classroom. You're sitting there and you will literally be writing. Right? A lot of my students have complained, no, our hand muscles don't work anymore, right? You got to work those hand muscles because it's literally a 3-hour exam where you don't have the material in front of you. You can't Google the answer. Again, you have to learn the material and be able to remember that material for the exam. And I think that is one of the challenges moving forward because everyone, India, everywhere around the world, right, the last 2.5 years, almost exclusively, we've become accustomed to this online education. And I think it's a good thing that we're moving back. It's a good thing that we're moving back to sort of a more classical or more normal college experience for our students.
I wanted to ask something of very
layman kind of a thing. Just like just as a mother's point of view, that as a parent, if I am not around much to govern whatever is being done in college, is there any way or media way through I can have a like a parent-teacher thing that I can get to understand her learning and assessment? So is there any channel?
Yes, I'll start. I'll let you add on if you want. So we do allow the parents access. So for instance, we have a system where we keep track of student attendance. Parents have access to that. You know if your child is attending class or not. It is a very safe campus. I think you can all be assured of that. Again, it is enclosed. No students come or leave unless they go through the guards there. And in most cases, you need some sort of parental permission in order for that student to exit the campus. On the campus itself, we have multiple stations scattered around where they have those panic buttons. We have lots and lots of cameras. So the security of the students, I think, is good. It is still a college, just like every college in the world. Of course, there's still smoking and drinking and other things that, you know, hopefully your students learn how to manage and get past without it becoming a problem. But I do think that ultimately, you know, I always tell our students, and for those undergrads out there, you know, your first year is learning how to be a college student, right? It's very different. It's a very different experience from high school, right? You want that independence, but they very quickly realize that, you know, mom isn't there to wake me up in the morning, or mom and dad aren't harping on me at night to do my homework. And there is a lot of freedom. There's a lot of social engagement. There's a lot of things going on. And so it's really that time management and ensuring that, yes, we want you to enjoy the college life experience, but you still got to buckle down. And again, just as an aside for the undergraduates specifically, you know, ultimately, I said one of the real important criteria for moving on to postgraduate education is your CGPA. But what a lot of young students don't realize is that if you start low, right, if you get a poor GPA your first semester, you're trying to pull that up each subsequent semester. And each subsequent semester, it's harder and harder to substantially raise that GPA. So your first 2 semesters are critical for establishing what your in-semester GPA is going to be, your last semester. So again, it's great. We want you to enjoy campus experience, but you know, part of this is moving into young adulthood and taking responsibility for your own actions as well.
Will there be anybody to guide them through the process of looking out for the electives?
Yeah, so, and again, for our undergraduates, this will be our second batch. For our master's students, it will be our first batch. So one of the benefits that the incoming undergraduate students have is that they now have an older batch of students that they can refer to. Any idea where that's coming from? So, for instance, and I didn't say this, but again, just to emphasize, we want our undergraduates to feel confident that they can reach out. So all of our undergraduates are assigned a faculty advisor. They don't have to think about who do I talk to or ask if I have a question. That faculty advisor is there and present for them. Our students will also be assigned peer mentors from the first batch. So they will be able to reach out and say, you know, well, I don't understand, what does this mean or what does this mean? So they're going to receive that peer-to-peer guidance and mentorship. It's really critical for the successful development of the students. The incoming master students will be in a slightly similar situation to our current batch, that you don't have that older sort of group. But I do think that the master students are typically older, right? You already have that bachelor degree, you're a little bit more mature, you understand what academia is and how to perform. So I don't think it's quite of an issue for that first year master's program themselves. But yes, ma'am, I do think that we have tried to implement both at the school level and the university level. So there's a lot of guidance and information provided to our students to ensure they have a successful experience.
While Dean Derrick was talking about, the safety and well-being that's ensured on campus, I saw a lot of parents smiling really wide and a lot of young people roll their eyes at that. But that is, of course, to ensure that we're all good and everybody's focusing on the right things. But to address your second question, in addition to everything else about them being guided about electives, etc., as a policy across JHU, each faculty maintains certain, what we call contact hours or I'm forgetting the term right now, but we maintain these office hours rather, which is that outside of the classroom instruction, there is a certain number of hours a week that we share at the start of the semester, during which students can, with an appointment, approach the faculty in their offices, set up an online meeting, come drop in person to seek guidance, to seek clarification, not only for the subject matter related, issues, but also about what is the best direction for me going forward, or am I best sort of cut out for this specialization or that one? Because we have students reaching out all the time to help them navigate through the many choices. We all know that when you're 16, 17, 18, 19, we can't wait to make our own decisions. But when we are actually faced with them, sometimes they can be a little overwhelming. So we do try and have an ecosystem in place where we are there to help them through that. So if we speak about how things stand at the moment, JSPC, the School of Psychology and Counseling, would primarily be addressing the core courses, the core curriculum of the BA Honours program. All the elective courses, which by the name of it suggests that these are elective courses, so they're not part of your core curriculum. These are courses that you choose to sign up for out of interest for a certain number of credits. So all of those elective courses which do not fall under the core curriculum of the undergrad program, those are being offered by JIPS. As an example, a lot of experiential courses like psychology of the courtroom or a forensic lab that has forensic, fingerprinting and these kind of courses, or courses about the art of listening and attachment and intimacy, or digital spaces, how to navigate that, or courses on how to handle your own well-being. These kind of courses, which are more experiential in nature, but not part of the core curriculum, that is what JIPS offers to students across JHU. Would you want to add something?
Yeah. So right now, of course, our focus is on the core courses for the undergraduates, but as we grow as a school and we bring in more and more faculty, of course, we'll start offering more of the electives as well. And ultimately, it's really to provide that psychological education for our students, but also for others that have an interest in the discipline. And real quick, I do want to answer a question. A student had asked, when do they get confirmation for admission? So as you all know, once you apply, you have to do the JSAT for undergrad, the PMAT for the postgraduate entrance exam. There's always a faculty interview, one, perhaps two. Once that's completed, we make a determination and you'll get a admissions or not at that point. So for the online questioner, I hope that answers for you. Please elaborate on how the research will be integrated into the psychology courses. As a student, I really want to get into this area and I'd like to know about the research opportunities. Great, thank you. So again, one of the things I've noticed as a foreigner from the US is psychology in India has really taken off the last couple of decades. But there's a lot of emphasis on applied psychology, industrial organization, forensic, etc., as well as treatment, both counseling and clinical psychology. There's really not as much emphasis on research per se, which again, from the US, that was really my specialization, and there's a heavy emphasis on that. We have research institutes devoted specifically to psychological research. So, for the questioner, for those out there, the way I envision this going forward is, again, there are certain things that are mandated with our students. This includes the courses, the practicums, the internships. Every student will go through that process. Research is something that is more amenable to personal interest. Okay? So, all students will get some exposure through the practicums, through the research lab and others. But ultimately, if you do research where you're trying to actually collect data, analyze it, etc., outside of a classroom, that will largely depend upon you. That is, you are reaching out to a research center or you are reaching out to a faculty member because you have a specific interest that you want to build on and develop. And we do have a lot of faculty that do research. Every one of our faculty is research active. Every single one of our faculty publishes, and the same is true for the CHIMS faculty. So for the questioner, again, the research is there, the opportunities are there for the students that want to take advantage, but not every student wants to go that route. And so again, there is some sort of ability to tailor it based on your particular interest. I will mention one more component of our undergraduate program that I haven't yet. So this refers to what we call an honors thesis. So right now, in the final year, the last semester, our students will write a paper on a topic of their interest, right? Standard 3-year, you're finished with the paper. Well, we want to set up an opportunity for our really good students, those that have done well academically. If they want more experience and more exposure, particularly related to the research, we're going to provide that. So again, this honors thesis, you will apply at the end of your 4th semester, the end of your 2nd year. And we're going to have some sort of criterion that we're still working out, certainly CGPA and other criterion. But essentially, you're applying to work directly with the faculty member. You'll work with that faculty member, you will design an experiment, you will collect data, you will analyze data, and you will, at the end of that 1 year, and this is a 1-year thing, this is semester 5 and 6. At the end of that 1 year, you write up a thesis, an honors thesis. From past experience, I think there's a very good chance that that honors thesis can be turned into a publication. So at the end of that, you get it published in some sort of journal, which will look great on your CV if you want to go on for postgraduate education. Now, to be clear, this is going to be highly limited. It's only going to be a small number of students that are able to do this. But again, this is another opportunity for our top students that are looking for that additional sort of experience and exposure and ability to interact with the faculty member directly with respect to the research. Batch 2023, the applications will be available probably October of this year. So October 2022, Rashika, you should be able to find the applications. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the one below, RT. Yes, RT, batch 2023, the applications will be available October this year.
These international study internships, etc., in the 2nd or 3rd year HSP, are they limited in nature in terms of quantity, or anybody can go in based on if they need a person?
So you're talking about the internships, is that correct?
Are they limited in quantity, availability, or anybody who meets the criteria can go for these?
Again, I'm not quite sure I understand. So you're asking about the internships. Can any student apply for any internship?
Yeah, my question is that are they limited in terms of availability in international scenarios, or anybody who meets the criteria can go for?
So no, for every internship, there's absolutely a threshold or a limit in terms of how many students they will accept. So low end, it may just be one or two, high end, it may be a dozen or more. But yes, every organization that we work with, they set that number. Here's how many students we're willing to accept that can come into our organization and work as an intern. So yes, there's always a criterion in there. And I should also make note that students apply for the internship. Ultimately, it's the organization themselves that will look at those CVs and the letters and will make a determination of which students they want to bring on board. So it can, moving forward, as we get more and more students, there may be internships that are very popular with the students, but you know, there could be some competition there. But again, our goal is to ensure that we have enough breadth and diversity and numbers of internships available, that won't be an issue. And I'm very confident that we have sufficient numbers to ensure that every student gets that opportunity.
And what about these student exchange programs in international countries?
Yeah, so the student exchange again will be limited. So each of the universities, so for instance, Hong Kong University is one that we've set up an MOU with. I don't remember the numbers, it's 2 or 3 or 5 seats where they say, here's how many students we'll accept. And again, it's an exchange. So we have 3 students go there, they have 3 students come here. So yes, it is based on some sort of criterion. Again, for the semester exchange for our school, there will be some minimum threshold. You know, we have an 8.0 GPA, maximum of 8. You're probably going to have to be a 6.0 or above in order to do a semester, semester exchange. Obviously, we want to send our good students, and so that's, you know, there's going to have to be some sort of threshold there for them to proceed. Right now, you know, based on what I see in other schools, you know, 15 to 25% of the students will typically choose to do a semester abroad. So I suspect we'll be pretty similar to that number as well. Yeah, so for the UG, he asks, or sorry, maybe she, Lunata. So will the internships be done after we choose our specialization in the 3rd year? So first, the specialization will be chosen at the end of your 2nd year during your 4th semester. And is there any choice to change the specialization course after finding out we don't like what we're doing in the internships? So I think there's 2 issues that are being slightly conflated here. So the internships, again, the students do a minimum of 3. That may be 1 per year, it's really up to the student. In the other 2 breaks, when you're not doing an internship, again, we hope that you're doing maybe a short-term study abroad, or maybe you've contacted a faculty member and you're doing some research with them or working with a research center, right? The idea is that you have these 2 additional breaks, summer or winter breaks, where you can gain additional experience. So that's the internship. The internship has no role in terms of the specialization that you choose, these tracks of study, as we call it. Now, sure, based on your intern experience, that may help make your decision in terms of which track you want to pursue. But ultimately, they're independent decisions. You pick a track at the end of your 2nd year, and then again, you're going to take coursework based on that. Now, there are certain courses that, you know, most students will want to take. So across all of these tracks, there will be coursework that all of them can take on cross-cultural psychology or gender psychology. Right? So whatever track you choose, there are certain topics that have relevance. But beyond that, if you're doing industrial organization, you may take an elective course on work-life ethics or human resource management. And so again, it's taking those more specialized courses with respect to the track of study. Now, I guess to extrapolate, you could say if I do 1 semester, semester 5 with 1 specialization and I don't like it, can I change it? Maybe. I mean, that would be sort of a case-by-case decision we would make at the time. You want to answer this question? Early decisions.
How is this applicable to Virginia? Yes, it is applicable. The admission team will get in touch with you, Aarti, and they'll help you out with the process. I think one from the admission team, maybe Babita or Shivali. Please get in touch with Aarti after this session and help her in the process.
Yeah, all right. Any final questions, folks? I know it's getting late. We'll have some lunch and then all right, so what's the plan? We're gonna go down to T4, is that right? Or, all right. So once again, thank you very much. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come visit us. It's been a real pleasure to speak to each of you. And whether you're looking at undergraduate, you're looking at postgraduate, I hope we've been able to provide you with the information you need. We will be joining you at lunch and talking and mingling with myself and some of our faculty members. So please feel free to reach out and we'll talk to you and answer any additional questions you may have. So once again, thank you for coming. And he'll give you some directions on where we're headed. So thank you, folks.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Dr. Khanna. And Dr. Pasna has to leave for another meeting. She is not with us. I'm Harsh Ranjan Chana. I'm part of the psychology and counseling and JIPS team. And so I'm taking this opportunity to thank you each one of the parents, students who have taken out time to come this far from the city. And before I thank you all once again, I'd like to introduce you all to the directors, producers, cinematographers of the program. I have with us Babita. We have with us Shivali, we have with us Ishita, we have Vibha. I have Satyam also standing there for all of us, and Malini and me. We really thank you all, and I would request all of you to give a big round of applause to these wonderful people who have created this for all of us. And thank you once again. And we are all available for more questions, which can come directly to us through the admission channel where all of us work. And any question, anything, any queries you have, you can write to us. You have all our email ID, you have our contact numbers, we can always be reached. And now we'll proceed for lunch. Thank you once again and have a nice day ahead. Of course, the team will be, yeah. So we are going on the 4th floor now? T4. So the team will be, I mean, the way we were coordinating with each other will be with you till we reach the place where we'll have our lunch. It's on the T4. So we have tower 1, tower 2, tower 3, and tower 4. So the lunch is on the tower 4. So let's proceed now. Yeah. Thank you once again. Thank you for joining.